Okay, so good morning all. I'm Brian Bateson. I am the treasurer on the board and I'm also the board liaison to the Physical Plant Committee. The Physical Plant Committee was formed a few months ago, and the members are Ann Whitty, Don Himes, Mary Ellen Graham, and Edward Merrow joined us recently. The first question I want to get out of the way to our committee members is, does anyone have any financial or business relationships with any of the bidding contractors, whether direct or indirect? No.
No.
I have none.
No.
Can we turn that up just a tad?
Yeah.
So, I've lost the video.
Okay,
The audio.
Mary Ellen,
Yes.
do you have any business relationships, financial or otherwise, with any of the bidding contractors that we contacted?
Any financial?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a disclosure statement.
Yes. We have no financial. One of the contractors was hired by the people who were going to buy our house, who were doing their due diligence, and hired one of these roofers to inspect our roof.
But you did not hire them.
Right.
Okay, so you have no
No financial.
conflict of interest. So that moving forward, Edward, you have no conflict of interest, correct?
None whatsoever.
Nor do I. Okay.
Oh, wait, you have to ask Don.
No, I answered I do not have any.
Thanks, Don. I thought I heard you say that.
Right.
Okay, so moving forward, we talked about the members of the committee, and part of the Florida condominium board course that all board members are required to take states that engineers' reports should be used as a basis for any contract work that is to be done. I hope who's ever coughing is okay.
Done. Coughing.
So in moving this forward, one of the things we had to be sure of was that CMM, who is our engineer, provide us with the information and the factual data in order to send this out to the contractors. So the contractors were aware of the needs for the roof on the Victoria, and that the contractors were also submitting bids that was comparing apples to apples. And that was indeed done. And this is the basis of the committee's finding for the foundation, because it is a factual report as much as possible. As I said, this report was provided to all contractors. So that being said, I also ask that people who are watching this hold their questions till the end of the presentation so we can get through, and that many of the questions hopefully will be answered during the presentation. Thank you. I turn it over to Ann.
Yeah, I'm going to a couple of times violate that rule, Brian, and ask the owners to weigh in, but I would ask that only when I ask for questions. And then at the end, of course, we'll take any questions that the audience might have. I'd like to start with I think what will be a fairly simple and non-controversial issue, which is we need to repair 3 fire pipe protrusions on the roof that are leaking into the stairwells. We put this out for bids. We got 3 responses to our request for bids. Orchid Island Roofing bid $15,060 for repairing the 3 protrusions. Code Red Roofing $3,600 and Hanabri $5,400. Reserves are available to pay for this work. The warranties provided, Orchid Island will give us a 3-year labor and materials warranty. Code Red 90 days, and Hanabri did not provide warranty information. So the motion I would like to make is the committee recommends that the board ask Orchid Island Roofing to repair the 3 fire pipe protrusions leaking into the stairwells as soon as possible. I'd like to vote on that. I vote for the motion.
Seconded.
Yes.
Aye. Yes.
Yes.
Okay?
Maybe
let's-
folks, it would be a good idea if when you answer, you say who you are, so
Oh.
we know who's answering.
I, Ann Whitty, vote for this motion.
Brian Bateson votes yes.
Edward Merrill votes yes.
Don Heims, yes.
Mary Ellen Graham, yes.
Okay, now we're moving to a much more serious and long-term problem, and that is Victoria's sloped roofs. And I would like to start with some history and describe where we are now in that process. Where are we now, and what is the sloped roof's condition? In 2018, an inspection prior to the sale of Unit 317 found leaks into the 317 unit. So we looked at that, and the roofers indicated that the issue here is that the chimney that tops all of our sloped roofs sway in the wind. They loosen the flashing to the roof. After the flashing is loosened, water gets in and rots the plywood underneath the wood tiles. The board took action on this. The board hired Hanabri to replace the rotting plywood and reseal around the chimney. In 2019, we found a leak by Unit 307 when we took off the baseboards. Hanabri was asked to go on the roof and see if it was a roof leak. It turned out not to be a roof leak. It actually was a pipe leak. But when Hanabri went to the roof over 307 had rotting plywood. They also looked at the 11 line, which had even more severe problems, including that it would be leaking very soon into the unit. The board hired Hanabri to replace the rotten plywood and reseal around the chimney of both the 07 lines and the 11 line. Every time roofers have looked at a stack on the Victoria, a chimney stack, they have found problems. The board, realizing this, hired CSM Engineering to do a full inspection of Victoria's roof. The inspection report was made available to owners in late 2019 excuse me, and discussed at board meetings. And it's been on the website, Ron. I assume you still have it there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this report has been available to owners since late 2019. It has also been discussed at a number of board meetings. Let me just briefly summarize this roof inspection report. The Victoria's roof consists of flat roofs and sloped tile roofs. The flat roof has some problems, but not too many. It has an expected remaining life of 15 years, so we have some minor issues there, but nothing serious. The sloped roof has major problems that could lead to failure of one or more sloped roof systems during our next storm. The entire sloped roof system will need to be replaced over the next 5 years. Okay, now I want to get some terminology which has caused the committee difficulty, and I want to make sure that owners are as well informed as possible. So bear with me while I do something fairly boring, but I think necessary. First of all, for those of you on the call, could you give me your unit number, the last 2 digits of your unit number? Let me call out people. Oren, what's the last 2 digits of your unit number?
06.
06. Brian, what's the last 2 digits of your unit number?
14.
Edward?
13.
Ron?
04.
Don?
13.
Mary Ellen?
07.
Okay, so what we have is that we have 17 unique last 2 digits, and we're going to call each of those chimney stacks. So each one of your units, so the units running 101, 201, 301, are topped by a sloped roof and a chimney. And these are fairly self-contained. There are 17 unique stacks, one for each of the last 2 digits. Each of those stacks is topped by a sloped tile roof with a chimney. In the roof inspection report and elsewhere, these 17 stacks are referred to as chimney stacks, which are numbered 01 through 17. Any questions on that? Okay.
Yes, I do have a question. I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Since the fireplaces, the operation of fireplaces was abandoned 25 years ago, my question comes down to, have the roof vents been capped beneath the false chimneys?
No,
Why not?
I have no earthly idea, but let's go forward. Victoria's sloped roof system. Dawn, could you fill us in on what exactly these roof systems over each of the 17 units are?
Okay, well, briefly, we talk about these roofing systems. The roofing systems really have 6 major components. You have your trusses and your framework, which is wood. You have your steel truss straps, which are steel in this case, and you have your bracing to the trusses, which is wood. Then you have plywood sheathing over the trusses, and then over the plywood you have peel and stick underlayment, which is, there are different kinds, but it's generally a fiber. And then you have the tiles on top of that. So really the main part of your roof structure is underneath the tiles. It's the trusses, it's the plywood, and it's the sheathing. The sheathing is particularly important because it keeps the moisture out, and if anything protrudes through the sheathing is designed such that it'll close up the gap. It'll adhere to whatever came through closing it up. And that's about it, basically. Those are the important components, and it's all a system, and they're all interlinked.
Very good. Thank you very much, Don. That's very helpful. So now we need to talk about replacing the sloped roof tile systems. CSM Engineering inspected Victoria's roof and provided a report on the roof condition in November of 2019. The report indicates that all of Victoria's sloped roof systems should be replaced by late 2025. Having carefully reviewed the report, consulted further with CSM and with 4 different roofing companies, the committee is convinced that Victoria needs to move forward to replace the sloped roof systems by the end of 2025. I'd like to make a motion. I move that the committee wants to inform the board that according to the CSM roof inspection report, all of Victoria's sloped tile roof systems need to be replaced by 2025. I vote for that motion. My name is Ann Whitty.
I vote for that motion. I am Brian Bateson.
Edward
Don
Merrill,
Hymes, I vote yes.
yes.
I vote for that
Okay,
motion.
moving.
Mary Ellen Graham.
Company to replace the sloped tile roof systems. We interviewed 4 different roofing companies and received bids to replace Victoria's sloped tile roof system from 3. Having reviewed the bids carefully, we recommend that the board use Orchid Island Roofing for work needed on Victoria's sloped roof systems. Orchid Island provides a combination of price, quality, and warranty that was not matched by the other roofing companies. Motion. The committee recommends that the board use Orchid Island Roofing to replace Victoria's sloped tile roof system. My name is Ann Whitty, and I vote for this motion.
My name is Brian Bateson, and I vote for this motion.
This is
Edward
Don
Merrill,
Hymes, and I vote for it.
Edward Merrill, yes.
Mary Ellen Graham, yes.
Could I ask, have they given a dollar bid yet for this work?
Yes, they have.
What is that?
The low bid was 800,000. The high bid was about $1.2 million.
So obviously that's requiring a special assessment.
Well, actually, I think that the committee has done extensive work on this, and I think we can work in a way that will not require a special assessment, but we'll cover that later in the presentation. Okay, chimneys. Victoria's chimneys do not serve any function at this point. They are not functional. They are purely decorative. They have been a major source of roof damage. According to both the CSM report and the 4 roofing companies we have contacted, the chimneys are a major source of roof damage. The chimneys sway in the wind, loosening the sealer at the base of the chimney and putting stress on the trusses and connectors. When the sealer at the base of the chimney loosens, it allows water to penetrate the attics under the sloped roofs and damage the plywood, trusses, and connectors. This is exactly the problem we had in the 17 line, the 7 line, and the 11 line. We can limit damage to the roofs by capping the chimneys or removing the chimneys. The roofers we have consulted believe that removing the chimneys as we replace the current roofs is the best course of action. Some owners we have spoken with believe it would be better to keep chimneys on the east end of the building, lines 8, 9, and 10, and the west end of the building, lines 1, 2, 16, and 17, to maintain more of the current Victoria look. We believe as a committee there are 3 options here. Option 1 is to keep all 17 chimneys at Victoria. The issue here is we will have continual roof repairs, and the repairs usually run between $20,000 and $30,000 per stack. Option 2, remove some chimneys and keep some chimneys. And option 3 is to remove all chimneys. This is clearly a matter for the association as a whole and the board to decide, but we did want to lay out the options that were available. Preparing the roof for hurricane season. As we all know, we have a subtropical storm off the Bahamas at the moment, and we know that hurricane season starts June 1, and we know that most of our hurricanes come in August, September, and the first 2 weeks of October. So what does the engineer say that we need to do? Well, first, let me give you a quote from the report, the inspection report. The current condition of the roof leaves the integrity of the system at risk of failing catastrophically during the next major windstorm. This is on page 5 of the report. CSM indicates that 2 things need to be done as soon as possible to prepare the roof for hurricane season. 1, replace roof tiles that are missing or broken. I forgot something. Let's go back, my apologies. I've been working on this. Edward, you had some pictures you could show us the current roof system and the system if we removed some but not all of the roofs. Would you be able to pull those up?
Yes, can you hold one moment, please?
Ron?
Of course.
Can you pull
My
up-
apologies for not having that in my notes.
Just 1 second. It's a visual aid here.
Which one do you want? This
There
one
should be 2 of those, 2 like that.
So this is Victoria as,
This,
Is this-
which pic, is that this picture or this picture?
I don't know.
We'll click on that one. All right, this is a photo that I took of the west end of the building, or the part that you come into the driveway. I tried to capture as many of the chimneys in the photo as I could, but without a wide angle lens, that was as much as I could get. So this is the existing roof line showing number 16, 17, and I don't know the two in the back. I do know that we're keeping 16 and 17. So click on the other picture.
I don't know which one.
Yeah, try that.
Let's try this.
And this is would be the new roof line showing the chimneys we would like to keep along with the cupolas and omitting the chimneys that we think are not necessary to keep the integrity of the building. You hardly notice any difference from the front of the building. It actually looks a little more natural and not quite as busy. And of course, there are many benefits of protecting the roof because as the roofer told us, any penetration into the membrane of the roof to hold another structure in place always compromises the structure of the roof. So this was an example. We obviously did not have the funds to hire an outside architect to do a drawing. If it becomes necessary and the board and the owners think that's important, we can certainly do that. But I think this visual gives you a pretty good idea that we would not be destroying the overall visual appearance of the building, but we would be certainly helping the building roof last many more years.
Okay, thank you, Edward, and my apologies
Wait,
for.
do you have a picture of the roof line without the chimneys?
This is without the chimney. Oh, without any chimneys? No,
Yeah.
that wasn't asked of me at the time because we thought that a compromise might be the most palatable. But, you know, we can always explore that when we get some feedback.
Other questions from the committee? Okay, thank you very much, Edward. That was very helpful. Okay, going back to what we need to do before hurricane season, according to our engineer. CSM indicates that two things need to be done as soon as possible to prepare the roof for hurricane season. First, we need to replace roof tiles that are missing or broken and reattach roof tiles that are no longer attached. Second, we need to replace rotting plywood because once the plywood rots, then the tiles beneath the plywood are no longer attached and will fly off in a strong wind. Replacing and reattaching the roof tiles. This is what CSM says about them. Some of the tiles are loose, missing, or broken and will cause a breach in the system, which will cause the remaining roof tiles to fail. These become flying projectiles, which can cause serious damage. And this is from a CSM engineering email of 5/13/2020. Motion. The committee recommends that Orchid Island be asked to replace roof tiles that are missing or broken and reattach loose roof tiles. My name is Ann Whitty and I vote yes on this motion.
My name is Brian Bateson and I vote yes.
Edward Merrill, yes.
Don Hynes, yes.
Mary Ellen Graham, yes.
Okay, replacing the sloped roof systems with rotted plywood. From CSM Engineering. Chimney stacks with rotted plywood are chimney stacks of chimney stack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 14, and 15 have rotted plywood. That is 10 of our 17 sloped roof systems. The first issue, of course, is repair or replacement. And I think a quote from the report and the other communications we've had with the engineer suggests that it's replacement that we need to do at this point, not repair. Here is a quote from the report. This is page 5 of the roof report. It is extremely difficult to repair roof continuing to provide the required system envelope. Therefore, full replacement is recommended. Okay.
What estimates have been received thus far?
Cost to replace each of the sloped roof systems. Orchid Island would cost us $40,000 per sloped roof system, and Hanabri, depending on the system, would cost between $47,000 and $89,500.
So roughly 400,000 for the 10.
That is correct.
What other bids were received?
We received 3 bids, and they ranged from Orchid Island to the 400,000 to Hanabri, which came up to, I can't remember the exact number, but substantially more. Vera Roofing, we decided was not sufficiently responsive. But we do have a quote from them, and it was higher than Orchid Island's. I can't remember, and below Hanabri's, but I can't remember the exact amount off the top of my head.
The roof systems of these 10 stacks are going to, or I should say the tiles or the plywood are going to be replaced. Why wouldn't we look into doing the entire roof system at this time, since a substantial portion is going to need to be removed to replace the plywood?
I think probably the committee, and we did not do a vote on this, but we can certainly discuss it. If it were up to me, which of course it is not, if it were up to me, I would probably go for an assessment and do the entire roof. But I don't know how the rest of the committee feels.
Well, you're doing,
Don,
you're
how do
doing
you feel on
40%.
that? I'm sorry?
I was saying you're
Don,
doing
how
about
do you
40%.
feel? Sorry, Jake.
I was saying you're doing about 40% of the roof right now for the plywood replacement, and then you're going to spend the same amount of money over again if you're redoing the entire roof 3 to 4 years from now.
Oh, that's one reason we're going for a replacement. Those stacks would not need to be replaced later. But I think let's go back. I think Jay has raised a point that we have talked about in committee, but I did not put in the presentation. My own feeling is probably the best course of action for Victoria is to bite the bullet and either use an assessment or financing to complete the full roof now. Don, what is your feeling of what the best course of action for Victoria is?
Well, it would be good to replace it all, but we don't want to, we've done some work on it already and we don't want to lose that work. It'd be nice if we could do it all together. I'm honestly not in favor of an assessment, but on the other hand, once they mobilize the equipment and bring it all in, you know, there's something to be said about doing the whole thing. I guess I'm on the fence, frankly, whether we do the whole thing or whether we do it in stages. In my experience, I've always done it in stages, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily right for this application. I guess that's about as much as I can add to it, Ann.
Brian, where are your thoughts on this?
My feeling is that if you could do it all at once, we'd probably be better served. It would probably be cheaper. It's a big amount of money for people to pay up at this time, but in terms of the integrity of the roof, doing it all at once, I think would be better. And in that regard, these are different proposals that will be going to the board. This is not something we're going to vote on today and going to be activated. So the committee looked at different ways of addressing the roof that needs to be replaced over a period of time. And later on in the report, Ann will get to another proposed way of financing it.
And Edward, what are your thoughts on this?
I basically agree with Brian on this matter.
And Mary Ellen?
Yes, I basically agree that the best option would be to replace the roof at one time. Financing, of course, is the issue.
Okay, let's go back to financing. We currently have $320,000 in roof reserves. The assumptions that were made for the contributions to the roof reserves are that the roof replacement would cost $1 million, and that the roof in 2019, when the budget was done, had 14 years remaining life. Well, clearly it has 5 years remaining life, and the 50,000 per year we've been putting in roof reserves is not adequate to cover the full cost of roof replacement. So in terms of getting ready for hurricane season, we can talk more about full replacement later, but let's talk about option one, which is to replace all sloped roof systems with rotting wood. This would cost about $400,000 and would require an assessment of $80,000. Option two, replace 7 sloped roof systems. This would cost $280,000, leaving Victoria with $40,000 to $70,000 of roof reserves for overages and other issues during 2020. CSM Engineering recommends that we replace sloped roof systems if we do a staged approach, working from the east to the west of the building if we are not able to replace all sloped roofs. This is from an email from CSM Engineering of 5/13/2020. Following these engineering recommendations and spending $280,000 of roof reserves, we could replace sloped roof systems for chimney stacks 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 14, and either chimney stack 3 or 15. We couldn't do both. This would leave only stacks on the west end of the building with rotting plywood during the hurricane season. And we were going to have a motion here. I don't know if Jay's suggestion is, it seems to have sufficient support. This motion may be unnecessary, but let me put it forward and see what the committee wants to do with it. The committee recommends that Orchid Island be asked to replace sloped roof systems on as many chimney stacks as possible prior to the hurricane season, the peak of the hurricane season from August 1 to October 15. Does the committee want to vote on this, or do you want to table it, given that at least some suggestion is that there be complete roof replacement?
I'd like to table it.
I,
Mary Ellen Graham.
Edward Merrill, I'd like to table it because I'm sure there will be some opinion of replacing some of the stacks, but not all of the stacks at one time. So that probably will want to be explored a little bit more by homeowners and the board. So I would table that.
Don?
Yeah, Don Himes, I vote to table it for a while.
Brian?
Table as well.
Sounds good. So we tabled that one, Mary Ellen.
Thank you.
Replacing the remaining sloped roof systems. So let's say we are going to do, and Jay, this is relevant to what you're saying. So this gives an option that we could use as opposed to full replacement. Replacing the remaining sloped roof systems if we did the partial replacement that we just talked about to get us through hurricane season. The committee developed one option for this work to provide the board and owners a way of thinking about the project. For this illustration, we assume that 7 chimney stacks are replaced in 2020. That is, as we just discussed, and in the motion we just tabled. That leaves 10 chimney stacks. Stacks 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9, 11, 13, 16, and 17 to replace between 2021 and 2025. Phase 2 of the roof project in 2023 and phase 3 in 2025 is one way we could go about this. So let's get some background and discussion on this. Phase 2 of the roofing project would do the remaining chimney slopes systems on the north side of the building. And what the roofers have told us, if we're doing partial work, we should do all work on one side of the building and then the other side of the building, rather than mixing whenever we can. Phase 3 of the roofing project would do the remaining chimney slope systems on the south side. That is lines 11, 13, 16, and 17, the front turret, and the cupolas, and the pool house. One of the attractions of the bid from Orchid Island is Orchid Island included the pool house in its bid, whereas the other roofers did not. So we're getting an extra benefit with Orchid Island that we will be able to replace the roof on the pool house.
And are they suggesting that we replace the cupola as well?
No,
During,
it
no,
would just be re-roofed. If you look at the cupola and the turrets, Jay, you will see that there's tile roofing that comes up to
Right.
the
To the
tile
flashing.
roofing systems would be replaced, but the cupolas and the turrets would remain. No one on the committee that I know of is recommending that the cupolas or the turrets be
Okay.
gotten rid of. Does anyone on the committee disagree with that?
No.
No, that's
No.
correct. You're correct.
And,
Okay.
and I'd like to add one thing to your discussion. I don't think you mentioned it earlier, but Orchid Island was not charging any extra to remove the chimney stacks that we decide that we may not want, whereas the other bids, there were additional costs.
Exactly. So Orchid Island they said basically that it would cost as much to seal around the chimney stacks and repair the damage that there exists to the chimney stacks as it would to remove the stacks. So they would charge nothing if we decide to remove some or all of the chimney stacks. Canabrie would charge $12,000 extra if we were to remove chimney stacks.
Did anybody try to obtain a bid from Roof Authority?
The companies that we contacted were Code Red, Vero Beach Roofing, Hanabri, and Orchid Island. We did not contact the company you just mentioned.
All right, Roof Authority are the people that originally replaced this roof 20 years ago.
So the tile, Jay, just for history, the tile roof as well as the flat roof was replaced in 2006?
It's whenever it was either 20 or 25 years ago, yes. Everything was replaced at that point in time after the last major hurricane, not the one we just had back to back, but prior to that, about 15 years ago. I forget the name of the hurricane.
The 2004, 2005 hurricane?
Yes,
Francis and Jean.
yes.
Francis and Jean.
I don't remember seeing that name on the list of roofers when we looked for roofers.
That's why I'm asking, because they're a major roofing company that do all the major roofs everywhere in Vero Beach.
I wonder if they're still in business. I didn't.
Oh
see
yeah,
them.
they're very much in business. Very much in business.
Jay, just to provide you with some background, the way we got our list of roofers is we first of all asked CSM, to our engineering company, to give us a list of roofers. And then Dawn and Mary Ellen Mary Ellen and Peter have lived at Johns Island, and Dawn has friends there. They were able to obtain a list of the roofers recommended by Johns Island. So we have a list from CSM and a list from Johns Island.
I might suggest that somebody possibly reach out to Roof Authority. They have the largest crew, and for a roof of this magnitude, I think they might be acceptable to people when you hear from them.
What was the opinion of CSM in relation to the roof that we presently have, the quality of the roof that we presently have? We know that it hasn't lasted the number of years that it was supposed to. But
Well, that's because it has been maintained.
CSM did not emit an opinion about the roof, but our subsequent questions, for example, Don asked a question. Don, what was your question about? And it came back, it was galvanized, not marine grade.
The roof should have stainless steel straps on the trusses. Our roofs are galvanized steel and they're corroding under the saltwater environment we live in here.
So those are the original trusses. Those were not replaced during the 2004 hurricane time.
Yeah, I would believe that. I think that's very much the fact. And also back then they were probably trying to cut some costs.
They were, since the building was in bankruptcy.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this is what we have, and obviously whomever is chosen and whatever work is voted upon to be done, it's a major project, a major disruption, a major cost, and it should be done with the largest crew, qualified crew available to mitigate those issues.
Without a doubt. We totally agree with that.
And a
Okay.
point of clarification on the
I'm sorry?
cost. It's Brian, I have a clarification point to make. On the
Mhm.
cost of removing the chimneys, it was $12,000 per chimney, correct?
That was Hanabri's bid, correct?
Yes, thank you.
What roofing company is this gentleman, Hanabfree? I never heard of him.
Hanabri, it's a roofing company.
Oh,
that-
Hanabry, Hanabry.
Hanabri.
Okay, all right. I've
Right.
heard of them.
And can we move forward?
Funds will not be available over the next 5 years to complete these phases if we continue to fund roof reserves as we currently are doing. Calculation of roof reserves have assumed a much longer roof life, 14 years remaining in 2020, than the 5-year remaining life of our roof. This means that we have not been putting sufficient funds into roof reserves. Based on the bids we have received, we believe that phase 2 and phase 3 would cost approximately $400,000 if this project were done today. Roofing costs, according to the roofers we've spoken with, are increasing 5% per year. And this project would cost more than $400,000 if we wait until 2023 and 2025 to complete it. We are currently putting $50,000 per year into roof reserves, which would provide only $200,000 between 2021 and 2025 when our roof will have worn out. We need more than double that amount of money, double the amount of money we are putting into roof reserves if we are to complete the needed roof work by 2025. If we were to increase annual contributions to roof reserves by $75,000, we would be contributing $125,000 per year to roof reserves. This would allow the association to complete phase 2 in 2023, when we would have $250,000 in roof reserves, and phase 3 in 2025, when roof reserves would again be $250,000. The increase in roof reserves would increase quarterly maintenance during the 2021-2024 budget years by about $365 per quarter. And everything is open for discussion now. That is what the committee has done to date, and we'll be happy to answer any question.
And
My concern is that because we've identified deficiencies in our roof structure, if there was a major hurricane, which will happen,
Yep.
the insurance company, more likely than not, is going to object to paying for the roof replacement because we've identified deficiencies, weakening the structure of the roof.
I think you're absolutely correct. And we have a 1% deductible on our insurance. And I think we would wind up paying for the full amount.
We pay the full amount. So the bottom line I'm suggesting is that we just bite the bullet now, get the roof replaced, do a special assessment, and move on with life.
This
I
is
have
Maggie, and I would like to support that idea. And I think that the various members of the committee have expressed similar opinions.
I
So
mean, we're
think
looking,
all on
we're
the
sitting
same
here with a
page.
time, right, we're sitting on a time bomb right over our heads.
Yes,
Because not
we
only is
are.
it going to be a problem replacing the roof and reimbursement from the insurance company, but also subsequent damage to the inside of the building that we just spent 500 and some odd thousand dollars redoing.
Yep.
And I have a question.
And may I raise a point?
Sure.
That I don't know who else was around, but I've spent a lot of time in meetings on a roof contract 20 or 15, 16 years ago. And there are a number of things that I would ask that this board, this committee, whoever's interested, the question of the roof is a matter of 20 element issue. We have 17 stacks. We've got a cabana. We've got a gatehouse. So you've got roof tile all over those areas. You have roof tile on the main building, and you have a flat roof, which suggests anyone you have to do the work, you have the options to fragment and handle each element by itself individually. So you have a lot of logistical flexibility. Do not make the mistake that all this has to be done at one time, and you do have options. Now, contrary to that line of thought, we got bitten very badly by Roof Authority because they chose not to go ahead and make a deposit when we had a contract with them on the roof tile. Roof tile is another matter. It's the solid. It's the nasty pill that all must swallow. When your roof contractor goes to actually secure the roof tile manufacturers that serve them will possibly not make options available to you that you want for replacement of the tile. If you're trying to match or alter, they kind of dictate. And during hurricane time, they truly dictated, because the tile we ended up with is a larger tile, and we paid an extra $60,000 for that extra size tile rather than the replacement. So
Actually, Oren, we have a 9-inch tile, and the standard is 12-inch. I think we wound up with a smaller tile and it is a more expensive system when you use the smaller tile. It's a broom.
Right, because it takes more labor. When we were doing the roof originally, it was about 1.2 million. Every roofing company everywhere in Florida was hitting the same suppliers for roof material, and that's why they couldn't lock in the material at that time. But even though the material cost more, from my recollection, the labor cost equaled it out because they were larger tiles, so it didn't require as many man hours to cover the square footage of the roof surface.
And it was I think the 60,000 extra was for a conversion to a larger tile unit. Now, what you got to remember,
you have pictures of the tiles. Do you want to throw those up? What we have currently is a 9-inch broom swept tile.
Right. Ron's going to pull that up for us. But at the moment, we have a 9-inch broom swept tile that is on the building. And they told us that smaller tile costs more money because you need more of it, and that the labor costs are higher because it takes more man hours to install it. So Jay is correct. The smaller tile does cost more in the long run than the larger tile. Now, what
You're probably looking at about a 15% between 12 and 15% material cost increase using that tile versus the larger tile.
That
Yeah,
is
Quite
correct.
honestly-
It was about 12%
120,000.
extra. For
And
the-
not just that, the larger tile has more weight to it. In our location on the ocean, it should stand up better than this smaller tile
There
as
should
well.
be more.
Anne, could you please comment on that? Because you have the figures for the
Yeah.
12-inch tile.
Actually, there are three roof tiles, which Edward could show. Edward, could you show the three roof tiles?
We're trying to get to them. Can you scroll on
Okay.
this side and see if they
So let me go forward speaking while Edward will pull them up. We have,
No.
Orchid Island has brought us three roof tiles to
What's
look
in
at and is searching for additional options. Those roof tiles, anyone can go see them. They're under the bench in front of John's office. One of those tiles is a 9-inch broom swept tile, which is the tile that we currently have on the roof. And Orchid Island says that to do the 9-inch broom swept, particularly because it's 9-inch, would cost an extra $120,000. If they do a
10%.
12-inch tile, whether it be, I believe it could be antique, or it could be the one that is under the bench by John's office, it would be $120,000 less.
Less.
And oh, here we are. Okay, click on that one. All right, the tile that you see
Well,
on the
Well,
bottom.
actually, you're not seeing it yet. So I
Oh,
got
you-
it. I got it, but I don't have it. Hang on one second.
Oh, I'm
Let me get it. Apologize for this, guys. This is a little tricky here. Go to share and share like.
Can-
Now there we go.
Ooh,
Okay,
I see roof tiles.
okay. Just stay on that one picture, the first picture. The first picture. All right, the tile on the bottom is the existing tile that we have, and it's in a broom swept finish, and it's what they call a 9-inch tile. That's what we have on all of the buildings. The next tile up is the recommended tile that they found that was closest match to our existing. You don't, yes. Which cost $120,000 over the base price of the roof. The next tile up is a 12-inch tile, and it is to look like a cedar shake or something. It has a line in the middle. That tile is a base price tile that was included in the base price of the roof system. Now, that particular one has an antique finish on it, which is an additional cost, but the roofer hasn't told us what that is yet. I had asked him to supply us with additional samples that would fit into the base price without any extra charges, and he has not brought those to us at this time. And then,
Edward,
yes.
Brian, what is the top tile, please?
The top tile is a natural clay tile, and
yeah, go ahead.
it lasts the longest. They say it will last 100 years. The only problem with that is that the underlayment doesn't last 100 years. So to buy a tile that's going to last 100 years is a little foolish on my part, because you're going to end up ripping it off after 25 or 30 years, however long the membrane lasts. That's as much as you're going to get on the tile. So,
Right. So that's why I brought it up. What is the top tile? Because it is clay. It is what Orchid Island recommended. It is the most expensive. And then the committee as a whole then asked Doug of Orchid Island, what is the rate limiting or rate duration defining element of the roof structure? And just as you said, it is the fabric, the two self-sealing fabrics that are underneath it.
right, it's the membrane that that the tile is covering. That is your actual roof. The tile is strictly aesthetics. for the look of the building, and it does provide some sun protection, but it isn't really necessary.
Okay. I just wanted to bring that up for sake of completion, since 4 tiles are represented in the picture, and that the clay one is the most expensive, and it has some drawbacks in terms of duration, but some benefits in terms of duration as well.
This is just our first go in with this particular contractor about what tiles he has available, and we will pursue this further as this project goes along. So this is not the final selection. It is a selection, and it does give us indication of pricing.
Just want to make one comment here. I looked at those tiles this morning and I was amazed. Somebody had mentioned the weight of the tiles, you know, as being an advantage in a hurricane, and I could
they
see
have.
that probably. But anyway, those tiles are a whole lot heavier than I thought they were going to be. And that one they recommend, I mean, is if this weight thing is a positive thing, which I believe it is. Yeah, the second one from the top, Ron.
Okay. that's
Anyway,
the 12 by 12.
those are really heavy, and I would be inclined to go with the wider tile for that reason.
Well, the roofer likes the wider tile because you use less tile and there's less labor.
Right.
But you have to be careful with a plain tile because this roof is old and the roof is not really flat. It undulates where it's sagging in some places between the trusses. And if you use a tile that's too plain, that doesn't have any texture to it, you are going to be very, very aware that that roof is not flat level. So that's another thing to consider when you're picking a tile. And the roofer confirmed that with us at a discussion we had with several people.
So are you saying that the tile should be
We lost Maggie.
is that broom brushed or not?
I'm sorry, we did not hear what you said.
Maggie.
It seems like the internet connection is unstable. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Okay, my question was, is the tile that we're seeing, the second from the top, is that broom brushed?
No, ma'am, it is not. It has what is called an antique finish, where they have added
I
some
see.
color to the tile to help with the idea that the tile does not.
Cost more? Would that be included in the price?
I cannot answer that. He did not give that
Yes,
answer
it
yet.
is- that is included.
believe we
I'm not
make a-
sure, and I would
And
not
more than-
say. I would not say it's included because every time I've bought a tile, the antiquing is more expensive than the plain because they have to come in, they dust that color on top of the tile before they actually stamp the design. So,
Doug pointed out to us when we met with him, when he brought the tiles over, that this was the tile included in the bid.
I believe they manufacture a broom brush tile as wide as the second one from the top as well. There are companies, I don't know which.
absolutely, absolutely. This was we're getting base prices and, you know, this will be refined before we sign any agreement with anyone. But this was to give us an idea about pricing and what options are available. Now, Doug is supposed to bring us some additional samples, but he hasn't told us exactly when he would be doing that.
And the selection of any specific tile will very much limit your ability to vary the program over stagger the program over a deferred schedule of some sort. The issue will come that you can't match the tile that you originally started with, because the tiles have bin samples that are color differentials, like you have carpet differential runs.
The dial-up, no matter, yeah, but the dial-up, no matter if we're not doing it all at one time, you're never going to match it identically because they're always going to be different dye lots.
That's
Variation.
right.
But the
That,
roofers,
that becomes a real issue.
wait, the roofers have told us that a bin lot is not sufficient to do our roof. We're going to have multiple bin lots regardless of what we do. We did check into that.
And the other,
Well, the only thing is when they're doing the run of the tile as it is specific for us, and it's going to require probably 3 tractor trailer loads of whatever tile we choose, they can actually run that lot specifically for us as opposed to stopping and starting. So there's more continuity in the color.
And
The
that
other
would certainly
thing
be an advantage of moving forward with the entire roof project at
Right,
one time.
exactly.
the other,
Secondly, Ann, you need to ask the engineer, those peaks on each stack are 50, 60-year-old design for roof support and structure. I think we want to update the specifications so that you don't get any waves in the surface of the roofs.
Yeah, but then we'd have to change all the trusses because that's what's supporting it.
Jay, the question is, do we want to do it and do it right, or do we want to just makeshift?
If we do it correctly from the ground up, including trusses, plywood, roofing tile, we're probably looking at about $2.5 million.
I think you're right, Jay.
Well, then
Plus engineering.
we're back to the issues of evaluation, aren't we?
Look, it all depends whether we want to spend $50,000 per unit or whether we want to spend $15,000 per unit. If everyone's wallet is unlimited, go for
I
the
think
50.
you need the engineer's evaluation of what we need to do in the substructure portion.
We
of
have
those
that
roof
in the
decks.
report, Oren.
And what do they recommend, Ann?
They recommend the replacement of the envelope. That is what we put the specs together for the roofers.
Yep.
But they don't,
But
there
they've
are a
kept the,
couple of trusses that will need to be replaced, but they believe that the other trusses are okay and they're not recommending truss replacement.
okay. But would they recommend a less spread on truss support so that you get a stronger roof deck, or using 3/4 inch rather than 3/8 or anything less than that for roof deck?
That
There's
is
got to
not in
be-
the report, and they did not address that.
And if we
Well-
did need more structure on the existing trusses, we could have the roofing company have their carpentry crew that's doing the plywood simply sister existing new 2x6 or 2x8 or whatever the dimension is into the existing trusses.
That's an option. That's an option.
It's all
But
money.
we need the engineer to evaluate and recommend.
One of the roofers did talk about that. I think actually it was a guy from Orchid Island. You know, whenever they had to do that, they'd kind of sandwich it there with a truss that's in place.
Yeah, it's called sistering.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I don't know where, frankly, when I look up there, I don't see a lot of undulations. I mean, I don't know whether this is a serious problem or it isn't.
Yeah, there really is nominal at best. You'd have to stare at this roof for 3 days like an eagle in order to find any type of undulating wave action in it.
Yeah, I really haven't seen it.
I suppose the question is, do we want to build a Rolls Royce or do we want to build a Chevrolet? They're both going to get us to the same place. And then the question is, how long is it going to take? So is it going to cost us $2.5 million to last 25 years? Or is it going to cost us $1 million to get us 25 years? And, you know, it's
We
got
can
to
do,
be somebody that can answer
do a
that.
nice Bentley sedan for the 1.2 million. And it'll still last 25 years.
I'm a very practical person and I'm 75 years old. I don't really care to build a roof that's going to last for 50 years.
You don't? Why not? I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
I think there's something called longevity.
Mhm.
And while you're asking for the engineers to expand possibly what their recommendation envelope should include, ask them as well what they recommend for capping off the 17 roof stacks that I asked originally, the vents that are open.
You mean
What
the
do you talk,
chimneys?
what do you mean, Orin? What do you mean by capping off? Are you getting rid of the roofs or simply capping the tops?
Capping off the vents into each
Okay.
fireplace, down each stack, the exhaust vents.
On the very top, the copper protrusion from the very top.
You mean at the very top of the chimney?
Yes.
No,
Well,
no.
you know,
Where
that
the-
depends on
Where the smoke goes out.
is that we remove the chimneys. So that becomes irrelevant if we decide to remove the chimneys.
Right, and if we remove the chimneys, we have to have the engineer redesign the wind load for the modified roof that is going to be replacing that infill section where the roof chimney was protruding.
Right.
I have a question. If we keep the chimney in some of the stacks, then shouldn't that chimney, even though we keep it, be capped?
Yes.
So that,
Yes, that is the point.
and that's part of what they have proposed, that for those that we keep, they will cap it. And
Correct.
for those that where we eliminate the chimney, well, then of course, that would have to be covered, the area where the chimney was. But in any case, the chimney would be capped, right?
Correct.
Correct.
That is not, that
Yes.
is not in the current bid, capping the chimneys.
Annie,
would
you're
have-
losing steam here. Could you either move a little closer to your computer or speak up a little bit louder?
Yeah,
Thank-
the capping of chimneys is not included in the bids that we have received.
And why is that?
Because no one, that the roof inspection report did not indicate that we should cap the chimney.
Oh, so that is not, I would think that that's highly recommended, if not required.
Certainly, it's not in the roof inspection report.
Just as a point of reference, the roofer recommended that all the chimneys be removed.
Well, that takes care of the capping situation.
Yes,
Yep.
and he was,
Well, the roofers prefer removing the chimneys. They think it's a far better solution than capping them.
and the structure and the roof itself will last longer without any chimneys present.
Well, any roof is going to last longer without a penetration through it with
Yes.
potential intrusion of water.
That's exactly the point.
That's
So
common
when
sense.
we leave chimneys up, we're weakening the duration of the roof as well as the roof. So
I
the
mean-
point that Ann made earlier was that it's an architectural detail at this point to have a chimney on the roof since they're non-functional.
Correct. Correct.
And then it has to be a matter for the board to decide what to do with the chimneys, all, none, or some.
Mhm. Mhm. I mean, I think quite honestly, I'm not part of this board, but that somebody should possibly try to reach out to the roof authority. It's not going to take much time to get a proposal from them based on the specifications outlined by CSM engineers as a comparison. Secondly, that we simply view doing things simultaneously, special assessment, get it over with, because there are just too many variables that can cost us substantially more in aggravation and financially than it's worth.
Jay, Brian Bateson here.
Yes.
We're aware of that, and the committee is presenting to the board, these are the options. So the committee doesn't, as you know, does not have the authority to
I
say this is
understand.
what should be done. We can only make recommendations and provide them with factual evidence to
Mhm.
support those recommendations. And the committee has
understand.
done that, and they've done a really good job. It's taken them a lot of hours to pull this all together.
Mhm.
So
I
I
can
want to
understand that.
I want to thank them all for the amount of work that they've done, because it's really been comprehensive and it's been to the benefit of the Victoria. So kudos. So we've also under a time limit here. hurricane season is fast approaching. There's a window of opportunity to address these. And the faster we get our recommendations to the board, and they're not exclusive of any other recommendations that someone would want to make. But the faster we get these to the board and they review them, the faster we can actually do something. Jay, as you pointed out, if hurricane season comes and we've identified through CSM, our engineers, that there's weaknesses and we don't address it, it gives a window of opportunity for insurers not to pay.
Correct.
And we don't want to provide them that window of opportunity.
Understood.
I would like to get this to the board as quickly as possible for those reasons and let the board deal with it. They've got information now.
Out of curiosity, Ann, has Orchid Island or any of the roofing companies to whom you have obtained bids from given a time frame from start to finish to do this work?
I believe they said 3 months.
That's logical. So we're going to be in the midst of the hurricane season no matter what.
Let's see, 3 months. We got June, July.
June,
Yep.
July, August.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll be in the
Absolutely.
middle of it. Okay.
This should have been done, but the committee wasn't formed until February.
Right, I understand. I mean, it should have been done several months earlier, but it is what it is.
Well,
Is-
if the committee hadn't been formed and all members of the committee
Right.
worked very hard, we wouldn't be this far along.
No, I agree. I'm not criticizing anything. I'm just making an observation.
May I interject something? As long as you have the membrane in place, hurricanes won't matter. They will not stack the roof with the tile until hurricane season is
That's
over.
true.
So
That's true.
as long as you have the membrane complete, your roof is protected, and you're probably better off waiting
Well,
until after
well,
hurricane season.
The
to
one
put-
thing, Edward, which you may or may not be aware of is that the membrane used, which is predominantly made by Grace Chemicals, it's called a peel and stick water shield,
Yes,
deteriorates over a relatively short period of time exposed to extreme ultraviolet rays of the sun.
Yep.
So yes, it is a protection, but you are borrowing the life expectancy like a retiring option the longer it is exposed to the elements, mostly the sun.
well, it's a gamble.
It's a gamble, absolutely. Just like
But
driving a
what's
car.
important is those elements, there's a lot of logistical pluses and minuses that these vendors, the various contractors are most aware of. And it's important for us, AR Choice, whoever's going to manage and oversee what's going on, we need to monitor very closely so that we get the best option selections on the logistics of everything that's being done.
Well, I
And
think the committee's thought is to hire an engineering company, probably CSM Engineering, for oversight, just as CSM Engineering has done oversight on the structural work.
And aside, if we do go forward with replacing the roof, are there insurance benefits? Will we get some kind of credit back
No.
because we have a new roof? You have any-
Jay, do you have any information on that? I'd have to talk
Yeah, it's
to
going to be very nominal because the insurance company has already factored into their quotation the fact that we have a fully secured roof. So they're not going to give us an additional discount because we just replaced the roof, unless we can get some type of mitigation report indicating that the wind load has been substantially increased or something to that effect. Otherwise, we're basically where we are right now. So
So that's an excellent point, and then it's something that, again, makes us lean towards the 12-inch tile, because we would have heavier tiles that way.
yes, it's not going to realistically, I would suggest, and I'm not an insurance person or an underwriter, but I would suggest that at the best we'd be looking at is a few percentage points, but nothing substantial. But everything helps.
And certainly we would go into negotiations with the insurance companies, which we tend to go into in November.
Yeah, but the only problem this year, Ann, is that all of the insurance companies, because of the situation, and even though nothing might happen down in Florida, we're one big package. And because of the virus situation, other things that have happened throughout the world, believe me, expect to have an increase. Don't expect to be flat or
They're telling us the increase will be 20 to 25%.
I figure the increase will be about 12%, but that's just me.
I like that number better.
I'm not writing the policy though, but I'm glad you like it. But that's what my estimation would be, about 12% based on all variables out there right now.
And I would like to raise the point that the underwriter of our insurance has collectively over the last, since 2007, collectively given us about an $8,500 to $9,000 discount every year because we close the perimeter of the asset and by putting shutters up. And I was hoping that this committee was going to institute a shutter maintenance program, which is important, prevent our insurance companies from not giving us that credit if they find out about it.
Well, Warren, I would suggest we don't have anybody come and do an inspection on the shutters so that we're made aware of it, subsequently voiding any potential liability on the part of an insurance carrier, especially as we're getting closer into hurricane season.
The point is, we need to keep the building secured in a storm.
Absolutely.
We have at least 6 units that have no hurricane protection.
That's their problem. They need to bring it up to
No, but
standard then.
unfortunately, no, but it's our problem too, because even though we're digressing from why we're all sitting here, if it damages their unit, there's a unit below it, there's a unit to the side of it that's subsequently going to get damaged.
That's right.
There's a common area that's going to get damaged. But let's try to stick on the roof right now. We have enough on our plate.
Okay, any other questions pertaining to the roof? Going once? Going twice? And do you have any final comments?
Hip, hip, hooray. Bye to everybody. Thanks for participating.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ann.
Ann?
Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Jay.